Hey there, welcome to our deep dive into a potential lost civilization from the Ice Age.
Oh, cool.
You shared some fascinating excerpts from Graham Hancock's book, America Before, and we're going to unpack those along with the other sources you provided.
Yeah.
It looks like we'll be exploring archaeology, genetics, anthropology, and even some ancient myths. Quite the mix.
Sounds good.
So the big question we're tackling is this. Could there have been a sophisticated civilization in North America that predates the Clovis culture, one that was wiped out by the Younger Dryas impact event?
Yeah, that impact event is a great place to start.
Okay.
You see, around 12,800 years ago, multiple fragments of a comet slammed into Earth, causing widespread devastation.
Wow. It's hard to even imagine the scale of the destruction.
Yeah.
Hancock describes massive wildfires, the extinction of megafauna like giant sloths and mastodons,
Right.
and a sudden shift in climate that caused sea levels to rise dramatically. He even mentions melted spherules found at the Murray Springs impact site.
Oh, wow.
These tiny glass beads were created by heat so intense it could melt a car.
That's incredible.
Oh, wow.
So the evidence is pretty dramatic, and right in the middle of all this chaos, the Clovis culture, known for their advanced stone tools, seemingly vanished from the archaeological record.
Yeah.
It really does make you wonder if they were wiped out by this cataclysmic event.
But what if they weren't the first humans in the Americas? That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Hancock dives into evidence of a pre-Clovis presence, pushing back the timeline by tens of thousands of years.
Yeah. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence is the Cerruti mastodon site, which dates back an incredible 130,000 years.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. This site suggests humans were interacting with mastodons in North America over 100,000 years before the Clovis culture appeared.
Yeah.
It really challenges the traditional timeline of human migration to the Americas.
You also included an article about the genetic similarities between ancient Siberian populations and Native Americans, and that aligns perfectly with Hancock's claims of a much earlier migration than previously thought. It's like the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and it's not just the Cerruti mastodon site.
Oh, okay.
There are other pre-Clovis sites like Monteverde and Chili-Meadowcroft, Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania, and the Bluefish Caves in Canada, all suggesting a much earlier human presence in the Americas.
You okay?
Now, there's still some debate in the scientific community about these findings, but they're definitely shaking things up.
So if humans were present in North America so much earlier than previously thought, it opens up the possibility that they had more time to develop complex societies.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another fascinating aspect of Hancock's book, the idea of a shared system of advanced geometry and cosmic alignments across ancient cultures.
Okay.
He suggests this could indicate a common source of knowledge, potentially, from this lost civilization.
It's an intriguing idea, and there's some compelling examples. Take the Serpent Mound in Ohio, for instance. It's shaped like a giant serpent and aligns with the summer solstice sunset.
Wow.
There are also geometric connections between sites like Watson Break in Louisiana and Caney Mounds in Oklahoma, separated by hundreds of miles, yet exhibiting a shared understanding of complex geometry.
It's as if they were all working from the same blueprint, even though they were geographically isolated.
Right.
And Poverty Point in Louisiana, built by hunter-gatherers, has a sophisticated layout that aligns with the solstices and equinoxes. These aren't random occurrences. There's intentionality and a deep understanding of the cosmos behind these alignments.
Exactly, and that raises an important question. How could these seemingly disparate cultures separated by vast distances possess such a consistent knowledge of celestial movements and geometry?
Speaking of mysteries, the genetic evidence adds another layer of intrigue to this whole story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. One of the most perplexing findings is the presence of an Australo-Melanesian genetic signal in some Amazonian populations. This genetic lineage is typically found on the other side of the Pacific.
Right.
So how did it end up in South America during the Ice Age?
It's a real head-scratcher.
Yeah.
You see, some researchers propose a coastal migration route along the Pacific Rim, while others suggest an even earlier migration across Beringia, followed by a southward movement. That's a fascinating puzzle, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it makes you wonder if there are other as-yet undiscovered migration routes or connections that we haven't even considered yet.
Now, Hancock takes this a step further and suggests that this lost civilization might have possessed advanced technologies that are unknown to us today.
Oh.
This is where we start to venture into some pretty mind-blowing territory.
It's certainly a bold idea, but Hancock presents some interesting evidence to support this claim.
Like what?
For example, he points to the intricate bracelet found in Denisova Cave in Siberia, which dates back to the Upper Paleolithic period.
Okay.
The techniques used to create this bracelet are incredibly advanced for its time, more in line with techniques that emerged thousands of years later.
It's like finding a smartphone buried in a Roman ruin.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't fit with our current understanding of technological progression.
Right.
And then there are the megalithic structures around the world, like Stonehenge, the Kailasa Temple in India, and even the pyramids of Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
The sheer scale and precision of these constructions have baffled researchers for centuries.
Right. How did ancient cultures, supposedly working with limited tools and technology, manage to quarry, transport, and lift massive stones with such accuracy?
Yeah.
Hancock argues that these sites might point to a lost scientific understanding, a mastery of forces that we haven't yet rediscovered.
He even suggests they may have used sound or focused intention to manipulate these massive stones, drawing on ancient traditions and myths from around the world. That's a pretty wild concept, but it does make you wonder if we've lost touch with some fundamental aspects of science and technology that were known to these ancient cultures.
It's certainly a possibility, and if we connect this to the myths and spiritual practices of different cultures, it gets even more intriguing. Hancock points out some fascinating parallels between the beliefs of Amazonian tribes and those in Australo-Melanesia, like their shared use of ayahuasca and similar visionary plants.
Right, it's almost as if there's a hidden thread connecting these cultures across vast oceans and continents.
Yeah.
And it's not just the plants. There are similarities in their cosmologies, their understanding of the afterlife, and even their artistic motifs.
Exactly, and this brings us to one of the most tantalizing questions raised by Hancock.
Sure.
Could this lost civilization have influenced later cultures, like the ancient Egyptians or the Native American mound builders?
That's a big claim. But when you look at the shared memes, the geometry, the cosmic alignments, the focus on the afterlife journey, there's some compelling parallels. Think about the ancient Egyptian belief in the Duat, the realm of the dead.
Okay.
It was often depicted as a celestial region, much like the Native American concept of a sky world, where the soul journeys after death.
And both cultures envisioned this otherworldly realm as a place with architectural spaces, bodies of water to cross, and even monstrous adversaries to face.
Wow.
It's not just a vague concept of heaven, it's a detailed and intricate cosmology. They even both have myths about a primordial time before a great flood, echoing flood myths found in cultures around the world.
You know, you mentioned the Edfu building texts from ancient Egypt in your notes.
Right.
I find those really interesting. They describe a primordial time before a great flood and suggest that the survivors of this cataclysm possessed advanced knowledge that they then shared with those who were spared.
Yes, the texts describe these survivors as the followers of Horus who taught the unlettered and uncultured who had been spared.
Wow.
It's a fascinating echo of the idea that the knowledge and traditions of this lost Ice Age civilization might have been passed down through generations, influencing later cultures around the world.
It's almost like we're seeing the faint outlines of a global network of interconnected cultures, all drawing on a shared wellspring of ancient wisdom and knowledge that may have originated in Ice Age North America.
It really makes you rethink our understanding of the past, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of a linear progression of isolated cultures, we might be looking at a much more interconnected and cyclical history with periods of advancement and decline.
It's a bit like uncovering a hidden layer of history, revealing a whole new perspective on the past.
Yeah.
But it also raises a crucial question. If this lost civilization was as advanced as Hancock suggests, what ultimately led to its demise?
That's a question that continues to spark debate and speculation. Some researchers like Hancock point to the cataclysmic events of the Younger Dryas impact as the primary culprit. They argue that this event would have been devastating enough to wipe out any civilization, no matter how advanced.
But others suggest a more gradual decline, perhaps due to environmental changes, internal conflicts, or a combination of factors. It's a reminder that even most sophisticated societies are ultimately vulnerable to the forces of nature and the complexities of human behavior.
And that's perhaps one of the most important takeaways from this whole exploration. If these ancient civilizations could rise to such heights of knowledge and sophistication only to vanish into the mists of time, it makes you wonder about the trajectory of our own civilization.
Yeah.
What lessons can we learn from the past to ensure a more sustainable future for ourselves?
That's a great point. This whole deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking. We've explored some pretty mind-blowing ideas, from pre-Clovis settlements in the Americas to the possibility of lost technologies and a global network of interconnected cultures. It's definitely challenged my perspective on human history.
And what about you? What stands out to you from all of this?
I think what fascinates me the most is the sheer scale of what we might be missing. If Hancock is right, it means we've only scratched the surface of understanding the true depth and complexity of human history. And that's pretty exciting. It really makes you wonder what other secrets are still out there, buried beneath the surface, just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
It's like we're piecing together a giant jigsaw puzzle, and we're starting to see glimpses of a much bigger picture than we ever imagined.
And that's the real power of this exploration, isn't it? It's not just about unearthing lost civilizations or uncovering ancient secrets. It's about expanding our perspective on what's possible, on the true depth and breadth of the human story.
It's a reminder that we might not be the pinnacle of civilization,
Right.
but rather part of a long and perhaps cyclical journey of human progress and decline. And if that's the case, what can we learn from the past, from the successes and failures of those who came before us?
That's a question worth pondering for sure. If a civilization as advanced as the one Hancock describes could disappear, what does that say about our own civilization and its long-term prospects? Are we on a similar trajectory?
It's a sobering thought, but maybe by understanding the past, by learning from the mistakes of those who came before us, we can create a more resilient and sustainable future for ourselves. Maybe that's the ultimate message here.
I think you're right. This deep dive has been a journey into the unknown, a challenge to our assumptions about the past and the potential of human civilization. And ultimately, it's left me with a sense of awe and wonder, but also a healthy dose of caution.
Me too. It's given us a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I'd like to leave you with this question. If the evidence for this lost civilization continues to mount, how will it reshape our understanding of human history and our place in the cosmos?
That's a great question to ponder as you continue your own exploration of this topic. Keep an open mind, question everything, and remember that the journey of discovery never truly ends. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to uncover. Who knows what other secrets are waiting to be unearthed just beneath the surface of our understanding.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Loved this video? Smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And don't forget to order the book, link below.